Hey friends, welcome to Jim Lanahan and Friends. I'm going to play Pointer Sisters for our pre-show. Because today, one of the Pointer Sisters passed away. And God, I loved the Pointer Sisters growing up. I used to see them on TV. And I wanted to be a Pointer Sister so badly because they were so amazingly talented and they were so fierce on all those shows like Solid Gold and MTV early days. Dr. John Paul!
Yes, hi, I'm here.
How are you doing?
I am good. I was just laughing because you said you wanted to be a Pointer Sister. And let me tell you, the gay in me loves Automatic. That is my jam. If that song comes on, I lose it. I love that song so much.
Yeah, Bonnie Pointer passed away today.
I know, I saw that.
I've been kind of revisiting all of those songs. They're so amazing.
Yeah.
I'm just taking a journey in my apartment because I forgot my speakerphone from my book.
Okay.
But now I can hear you much better. Yeah. And of course, Neutron Dance was from Beverly Hills Cop, right? That's how everyone knows it.
Yeah.
But I remember vividly, it was one of those first times when I came into myself, if you will. Someone said you don't know that song from Beverly Hills Cop? And I was like, excuse me, that song is from their third album. It's track 4. I wanted to be a Pointer Sister so badly,
It's okay. If I was alive, I probably would have wanted to be a Pointer Sister too.
Oh my God, did you just call me old?
No, I was
Paul, it was going so well.
I was a baby. I think the Pointer Sisters were big, in the late 70s, early 80s?
Basically.
Yeah, 85, so.
Yeah, I can tell you a secret.
Yeah.
We both know my executive producer, Stephanie Laffin. So I actually asked her, I go, is he in his 30s? Is he in his 40s? Because I didn't want to age you out on the music conversation.
It's fine. No, I am a music head, honey. And so 9 times out of 10, I know that the time of EP10. Stop. No, and that was not shade. I was not trying to be intentionally shady. If it did come off shady, I am sorry. Ageism is not something I buy into. However, I know for me, I grew up with a lot of that kind of music. I know my mom played a lot of old school Luther. I grew up with a lot of old school Anita Baker. The Pointer Sisters were big in my home. Everything from my mom was a huge Prince fan. So ultimately, yes, music is definitely a thing for me. So
yeah, I know. I loved all of that. I loved all of that. Well, officially, I want to welcome you to Jim Lanahan and Friends.
Yeah, I'm so excited
Jim
to be here.
Lanahan and Friends is the same 10 questions. By the way, do you notice your theme song is simply the best?
Yes, I am.
Because I think you're the best.
I stand for it.
We'll pause too when she gets to it. Don't worry.
Okay.
Because
you know what? I can't. So every time I hear the song, I think about Schitt's Creek. I can never not hear the song now and not think about Schitt's Creek.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah. I know music has such a strong association for me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. But welcome to Jim Lanahan and Friends. And
I'm happy
the
to be
same
here.
10 questions. There's no right answers. There's no wrong answers.
Okay.
Just say whatever's on your mind and we'll have a good time with it, okay?
Yeah, no problem.
So, question number 1. It's kind of a warm-up question. If you get it wrong, we're in trouble.
Okay. I love it.
I love that you love it because sometimes the guests literally just look confused.
No, I love it. I'm so here for it. I love all of this. This makes me so this is a good way for me to end my day because my day has been so hectic. And so I'm really excited for all of this. So yes.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Well, tell me your name. Where'd you grow up? Where do you live now?
Okay, so currently, so my name is. I'll start with kind of the long slash short of it. My name is John. I currently live in Rancho Cucamonga, which is a little tiny city right outside of Los Angeles. Really easy to get to when traffic isn't terrible. So like right now, it would only take like 35, 40 minutes to get to. But ultimately, on any other given day, it's about 2 hours. And I grew up between two cities. So my mom lived in San Bernardino. My father lived in the Compton slash Dominguez Hills area. And so during the week, I would be with my mom. During the weekend, I was with my dad. And just my whole entire life was back and forth between LA and back and forth between San Bernardino. And so now I currently live right in the smack dab middle of the two. And I currently am in the process of looking to move to LA. But with everything happening, yeah, we've kind of put that on hold. So.
Yeah. Do you have a neighborhood in LA picked out, or you're kind of open?
My my dream would love to be somewhere in, I would say maybe like the Echo Park slash Ladera Heights area. But my budget is probably gonna put me somewhere in Azusa. So
That's awesome. You're like, but my budget's gonna have me in Orange County.
Yeah, they'll probably have me in West Covina, somewhere around like West Covina, Azusa area. Yeah, well, the LA won't work for me.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. You never know, though. You might stumble upon something great.
Let's hope. Yeah, let's hope.
Stephanie and I talk about it all the time, how we kind of lucked out, but I do pay too much, so
I believe it.
Yeah. Describe yourself in 5 words or less.
Okay, in 5 words or less. I just think the word for me is fabulous. That's it. That's really it. I'm just high energy and fabulous. That's it.
That's it. That's all you need to know.
That's all you're gonna get.
Yeah. But is John generous? Nobody's fabulous.
Yeah,
it's John.
I think kind. I think
but fabulous.
Yeah, just fabulous. We're gonna stick there. Okay, that's the whole tweet. Yes, the whole tweet is fabulous.
Well, I don't want to embarrass you, but people that we have in common described you as open-hearted.
Okay.
And one of the kindest souls that they knew. So
I try to be, honey.
Yeah.
This world takes it out of you.
Especially lately, right? There's a lot going on too, which I think we'll probably touch on in a moment. Sure. But speaking of you being a kind-hearted individual to your friends, you know what I'm going to do now, John, because you enjoy it so much? Yeah. I'm going to pretend like I'm afraid of the sound effect. Because don't you think drama's everything? Like, watch this. And the next question.
Yes. Yes, I live for the thematics.
I know you do. I know you and I are long lost twins in that respect.
Very much so.
How did we meet, you and I?
So I actually, so I had heard wonderful things from mutuals as well. And then I just was kind of like, oh, okay, I know this individual, through so-and-so. And then I started recognizing that a lot of the stuff you did was stuff that me and my partner were both extreme fans of. And so just kind of knowing your history and your work and things of that nature, that's how it became more well-rounded and well-known in relation to who you are and what you do.
Yeah, well, thank you. And the feeling is quite mutual. Like, the more I learned about you, I was like, oh, I really love him. I love what he's about. I dig all of it. So let's dig in a little bit on it. So you're like incredibly smart and accomplished. Like, there's a doctorate. There's, I believe, a master. There's articles that have been published. There's an award. There's a Quality Magazine 40, LGBTQ under 40. It goes on and on. So tell us a little bit about what your work is now. Like, but screw work. What's the passion right now? What keeps you going?
I think the passion right now. So I'm, it's so funny because I move in and out of what I like to call my standard PR questions, and then just the genuine things. I think might work for me right now. So I got an email this morning, and it's funny because my manager is watching. Writing is a passion of mine. I think storytelling is a passion of mine. I always kind of lead with this, and then this is kind of where we'll go from here. Years ago on a job that I had, I would always tell people that I used to feel what I thought was voiceless. In a world where I had ideas and visions and thoughts and beliefs and dreams, I would share them with people, and people would always be like, oh, that's great, whatever, but that's not going to happen. And I always thought that it would never happen. And so what ended up happening for me was I started kind of not telling people and just kind of just doing. And then I started to notice things happening, articles getting picked up, spaces. I was starting to get into spaces I never dreamed that I would ever get into, being recognized and followed by other individuals who either know me or know my work. And then it just kind of led to me being like, well, if I can do that, then now the sky is the limit. And that's what I've been doing. I've been, I wrote a pilot. I consider Stephen Canals, the writer and a creator of Pose, a mentor of mine. I have really good relationships with a lot of individuals in the industry who are ultimately tapping me every other day saying, hey, we want you to do this, or you should look into doing this, or I know this person who's looking for you. And that's ultimately what's happening in my career right now, where it's a lot of me just putting myself out into the world, my story into the world, and my passion out into the world, and people picking up on it and saying, hey, we want Dr. Higgins to be a part of this. So I'm kind of in this place now of wherever my dream goes, it's going to go. But I'm just thankful to know that by putting good out into the world, the good is actually coming back to me. So
I love that so much. People will often say to me, especially in the last month or two, thanks for being positive, thanks for keeping it upbeat. And I'm like, it's not about the thanks. The reason I do it is because I truly believe the reason we're all here is to hold each other up.
Yeah.
And to, endorse and validate each other on a very personal, spiritual level.
So
and so to you, I say, what was the moment? What clicked where you suddenly felt rooted and secure enough to say, screw it, this is my voice, I'm going to start putting it out there?
Yeah. I think for me it was, and I can't say a lot about it. There was a moment, and if you Google it, folks will find it. I just kind of always leave it at that. There was a moment in 2017 where I kind of was, I would say, there are moments in our lives, right, where we know what we should be doing. I was a person that I kept kind of going for jobs and opportunities that were comfortable for me. And then I had an incident happen in 2017 where the universe was like, nah, girl, you're going to do what we tell you to do. And it was kind of like, I didn't have a choice in said situation. And I had a couple of days where I was kind of, feeling down on myself and feeling like, what was this all for? Why did this happen to me? Why does bad things always keep happening to me? And then someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, I hope you know that bad thing that happened to you just opened the door for you to be able to do whatever you wanted to do. And I had to flip that moment and go, wow, actually, yeah, I can do whatever I want to do. And so I just started kind of, reaching out to people and saying, hey, tell me how I can get into entertainment. Tell me how I can become a freelance writer. How do I become an educator? Like, how do I actually get into the classroom? Like, I was just in this place now where it was like, I didn't really have any restrictions. And I had to start looking at, I think people, when bad things happen to people, it's real easy to get locked in that bad thing and feel like, oh my God, why is this happening to me? And I think through the podcast that I listen to, through the friends I have, through the therapist I have, I've gotten real good at reframing things from this place of, instead of saying, why did this happen to me? Asking myself, how did this happen for me? And so, like, what is the for me under all of the quote unquote bad things that happen? Like, I've missed out on a lot. I'd say missed out quotation wise. I've had things like miss me, and I'm going, why did that happen to me? And then in the long run, I'll look at something and this really big thing will come along and I'll go, that's why, right? Like, that's why it missed me. So I think that's just genuinely where I'm at in my life right now. Like, yeah, again, I'm the literary, like all of these things that I've done were all things that I dreamed of doing. And I think 2017 was like the year that opened up for me and said, hey, the doors are open. Now you just have to run. And that's basically what I'm doing. So
Things don't happen to us, things happen for us. That's
yeah.
an amazing concept when you think about it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I had a friend go through some things, and I said, I truly believe that life is full of angels and instincts. The angels are the people, or the occasions, if you will, that come to us and bring us what we need to learn.
Right.
And the instincts are when we dig deep in ourselves and we do the learning. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
it's
Yep.
so
Yep.
important to trust yourself and know where you've been and know where you're going.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
That's an amazing thing. I'm going to tattoo it on my forearm. Things happen for us.
Right. And you know what? If I wasn't scared of needles, I'd probably get one too.
You are, oh, well, I have zero. By the way, I enjoy you so much. You and I can go from like, we just had an Oprah moment. Now let me be silly. I'm terrified of needles. I'm
Yeah.
diabetic, so I get my blood drawn every now and then.
Yeah.
But the idea of a tattoo is too much for me, you know?
Oh God. The sight of a needle will make me pass out. I can't do it.
Oh,
Can't do it.
yeah. I mean, I hear you. Plus, like, I can't even like, I'm trying to think of a good example. But what am I going to want on my body forever? I don't know. I have no idea. Like, you know.
No, and I can never bring. I have friends who have tattoos, and you ask them what the tattoos mean, and they're these long drawn out, you know, things. And for me, I'm like, I love things, but I'm not passionate enough to put something on my body like that. So
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the next question's a little bit related. I usually say, if money was no object, what profession would you have today? But I think you would have this profession today.
Actually, I wouldn't. I was happy you asked that question.
Oh.
A lot of people don't know. So that's the one thing that a lot of people, if you're really close to me, Stephanie, a couple of other individuals who might be on know this about me. I grew up thinking I was actually going to be a singer. And I wanted to, I had in my vision, I had my dream of being on the stage. And I genuinely, there would be moments where I would be singing or dancing around the house. And in my own head, I knew what my tour was going to look like. And I knew what songs I was going to cut into, and I knew what songs I was going to sample. And that's what I think makes me a music head now, is like I can listen to a song and instantaneously some of my friends will look at me and they'll go, who produced it? And I can tell you every person who's on that song.
Love it.
It's just second nature to me. Music is literally something that runs through me. And so I love writing. I love television. I love storytelling. I love narrative, but my true passion is probably somewhere in the record industry, if the record industry wasn't so terrible. So,
I mean, terrible, right? Horrible.
I just, every time I think about people I know who have been affiliated with it or people I've seen go through it, I'm like, oh, I'm good on that. But if that were to come my way, I could definitely do that and love doing it every single day. So.
Now, who was like what was your jam? Who was your artist? If you were going to just go to a karaoke and like throw down a song, what would the song be, or who would the artist be?
So, growing up, I was it was a toss. So the thing was, growing up, I always tell people, this is a funny story. I enjoyed singing, but I didn't like people enough to sing around them. So that was one of the things that kept me from like pursuing it professionally. And a lot of my friends know I can sing, and a lot of people that are in my circle like the fact that I can sing. But growing up, the person that I would often sing was, I would always sing between Whitney and Celine because I have a very high octave. And as a kid, I could actually, I used to be able to actually do the harmonized screams and the high pitches and things because my voice was so high as a kid. When I got older and my voice changed, I wasn't able to actually do the whistle anymore. I lost the ability to do it. However, I can still get into a high octave. And so when I was in high school, my choir director would sit me right between the tenors and the sopranos, and she would point to me when she wanted me to hold a certain note because she knew I could be able to hold either one. And I can still do it on like a good day. I can get into a high head voice, but most of the time I'm usually just a very high tenor. So
that's amazing. I mean, that's a gift that you can sing that high.
Yeah.
Truly.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Question number 5.
Okay.
Past, past or present, aside from your partner, who would be
Right.
surprised to hear that you have a crush on them?
Okay, so I would say mine is not really a past or a present. They're more current. My husband already knows this, so me saying it won't have me sleeping on the couch tonight. I am absolutely in love with Matt McGorry, and I think he knows it too. I think someone has shared it on social, and he has seen it. Yep, Stephanie already knows it. Matt McGorry is everything to me. I don't know what it is. I think his ability, both when he's acting and when he's not, he's just very, very, very aware. He's very like socially, like the way he thinks, the way he talks about social issues, the way he moves, the way he acts, just everything about him. I think he's one of the most talented people.
In case people who are listening don't know Matt, how would they know him? What's he known?
Matt McGorry he was on seasons 1 through 3 of Orange is the New Black. And then he bopped over to How to Get Away with Murder, and he played Asher.
And he looked good as Asher.
Yeah. And even when he put on weight, because there was a point in the show where I could tell he was starting to gain weight. And I saw people online being like, what's going on with Matt McGorry? Why is he gaining so much more weight? And I was like, I'm glad he's gaining weight. Leave him alone. So like, I just think he's absolutely adorable.
Oh, so adorable, so smart, so aware, right?
Yes.
And I will take perhaps a step too far and say, I don't always find straight white men the most aware.
Correct.
And when I find a progressive one, I want to marry them right away. You know?
That was me, because I was like, oh wait, he is marching with Black Lives Matter and leading and organizing. Okay.
So
yeah.
I have a little crush on a very progressive Caucasian gentleman who does the news here in Los Angeles. And I'll tell you everything about him. I call him a dream sequence because I love me some Mark Mester, because mostly, I mean, he looks like Prince Charming, but what comes out of his mouth?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's impressive. Especially now, it's impressive and important.
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What movie? Oh, you know, if you're going to have a sound effect, Jim Lanahan, you're going to have to learn to time it correctly.
Correct, yes.
So let's back up. Ready? And so what's coming out of the mouth is even more important now. Question number 6. What movie or TV character do you most identify with?
So when I was looking over these questions, I struggled with this because I feel like there are so many people that I see and I go, that's me. I think currently in this moment, it's hard because I'm watching so many different things. If I was going to say a movie character, I don't know if you've seen, is it the movie Love, Simon? Yes. There is a character with I know him in real life too. We've met once or twice. I think we've met twice. He was the one with the long hair, African American with glasses, and he was his demeanor in terms of who he is, both on screen and off. He was actually on what's that singing show on Channel 5? The one where the woman was singing about her ovaries. It was a television show, and he worked in I think a pretzel shop with her. What is her name? My husband loves that show. Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. He was on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend for a little bit too. But anyway, his characters tend to be who I am. Currently where I am in life though, I say that I'm probably a little bit of, I always kind of go back to Desperate Housewives. It's my favorite show. I'm a mixture between Bree and Lynette. I'm a Bree and Lynette kind of person.
So a little anal, a little crazy.
Could be. But I'm also very tell it like it is, knowing I'm going to get in troubles. Yeah. That's Lynette. Lynette always knows she's going to get in trouble, but she does it anyway. That's me.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. That's amazing. I don't know who I would be if I was a Desperate Housewife. I mean, I want to say I'm a little Nicolette Sheridan.
Oh, but she got fired. So I was always like, oh, you don't want to be Nicolette. They
I
killed her off.
know. She wasn't nice. I would
Mm-mm.
definitely not be the mean girl on set. I'm, usually the nice girl.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I'm a little Terry Hatcher too. Like I'm a little bit like in my life, like I have it together, but sometimes I'm just exasperated by life,
Bless you, Lord. Yes, yes.
Just too much sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I love that though, Lynette and Brie. It's kind of amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Question number 7. For what reason might you find yourself on the cover of a tabloid?
Okay. I thought about this and I may have a good answer. I think there's actually 2 answers for why I probably would be on the cover. Give me a second because my cat's trying to get out. Go ahead, Lily. Go. Go. Okay, she's gone. Sorry about that.
Is your cat's name Headley?
Lily.
Oh, Lily.
Mm-hmm.
That's cute.
She
So
comes
cute.
in the room. Her thing is when I'm doing work, she likes to come in the room just to know that she can be in the room. And then when I shut the door, I want to get out because I know I can't get out.
Of course.
So that's typical cat stuff. But anyway, when you were saying what would I be in trouble for, I think there's 2 things. One, it could potentially be I probably went off on somebody for them doing something problematic. Stepping up for someone who maybe was like queer or trans and probably was like misgendered or whatever the case may be. I'm real good for stepping up for people. Or I probably cursed someone out because they ate the last donut. Mm-hmm.
First of all, I would take a bitch down if they ate the last donut.
That's me.
You better at least check with me if you're going to. I'll probably say
just
yes.
Ask.
Go ahead.
Just ask. All you have to do is ask.
You had better ask.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I love, and this relates back to the work, of course, you taking someone down for being disrespectful on any level to the community, our community. Yeah. And then also, I know you do a lot of work with intersectionality of LGBTQ issues.
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter issues, people of color issues. So, how, and I didn't want to get into this. I'm sorry. There's a police siren outside. I didn't want to dig into this too much because, mostly, and Stephanie and I talked about this today. I know that my friends who are people of color, my friends who are Black, are exhausted right now.
Yes, very much.
Having to educate people like me. So, and I had a conversation today with my friend Kate. She's married to a Black man. And she said, I have such immense feelings of white guilt. And I said, but honey, like you and we have such guilt. Yeah. But on the spectrum of white ignorance, we're at the low end of the ignorance scale. The people who need to learn have no guilt at all. Right. And they have. So here's the question. I'll just ask you a simple question. Go for it. What is the one resource that someone like myself who wants continually to push my family, my father's family, they have a lot of journey ahead of them here. What's the best resource I can do to push them towards, whether it's a website or a book? What's like the, if you will, gateway learning moment for someone who's really starting at zero? Well, there are books. I forget what her name is, but there's a book called White Fragility where folks could read. I think, I know for myself, I think the thing I always tell people to kind of go to first is Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Freire, because I think if you can't comprehend what oppression is, it's really hard for you to understand what white fragility is, and I think that's where people kind of miss out. You get people who immediately go in talking about, you need to understand racism, but if you can't understand the structures that creates racism, and that's why I think Pedagogy of the Oppressed is one of the best books to begin with. It really helps people understand how things look from a structural way. I honestly think, I'm one of the Black people that don't
I am exhausted, but I'm exhausted for other reasons. I mean, on top of everything that's happening in the world, I think one of my biggest frustrations is where I'm at currently is this idea that I've been on this wave, been trying to tell people for years that what's happening and this reckoning was going to happen and it was going to come, and people kept trying to shoo me away. And now they're running back to me and they're going, Dr. Higgins, what do I do? And I was going, I was trying to tell your ass 5 years ago. Like, that's kind of where I'm at. So I'm not necessarily exhausted because of these conversations. I think I'm more exhausted because I have like me and a few other individuals who have been doing this work have been on this wave for years, and no one wanted to listen to us. And now all of a sudden we are, quote unquote, the most important / most know-all people in the room. So it's just the gaslighting. I think I'm more tired over the gaslighting more than anything. So.
Do you want to know, not to put words in your mouth, but I'm annoyed. I don't know if you feel a little annoyed. It's like, oh, now you want to have the conversation?
Well,
I've been trying to have this conversation for a decade.
Well, I think people only want to have the conversation when they know that it's going to cost them something, right? Like, I think, like, even for me, and you talk about white guilt, I think about this a lot. I mean, I have a lot of guilt being cisgender male, and even though I'm non-binary, I'm not trans. And so I think about that a lot. Like, I have a lot of black cis, you know, I don't want to call them sisters per se, but I have a lot of black trans family members, I like to call them family members, who are, you know, hustling and struggling and trying to just kind of keep their head above water. And, you know, I know a lot of my success has been me being able to maneuver certain systems and continue to keep working in certain spaces. And I carry guilt with that too, right? Like, even though I'm non-binary, I still make a lot of people feel comfortable because I'm light skinned, I have light eyes. I'm very effeminate. I'm not considered a threat. And so I think about that stuff a lot. Just as much as I'm doing the work, I am thinking about the things that I carry as my, what I like to call, like, in my privilege bag as well, you know? So, yeah.
I could listen to you talk forever.
Thank you.
Here's another question that's pertinent for you and I is, I think that a lot of folks on the LGBTQ spectrum think that they have less of a journey because, oh, I'm gay, I know what oppression is. Or,
oh, but do you?
Yeah. So what's a good way to just call them out on that crap? Because I have a lot of that in my gay life.
Yeah, you know, so what I struggle with that statement, right? It's like me saying, well, I'm gay, I understand what Black women go through. No, you don't. It's like me saying, well, I'm queer, so I understand what it feels like to be paid less on the dollar. Not necessarily. Like, you know, there are a lot of things that just because I have an understanding of one concept doesn't mean that I understand all of the concepts. And so I think it's really important for folks, you know, when you are marginalized in some capacity, right? We are all oppressed to some avail, right? If you're queer, if you're black and queer, the stakes become higher. But I think for me, it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Because I'm always trying to check my language. It's very one-sided. I'm gonna use that as a word instead of using the other word I want to use. It's very one-sided to assume that you're all knowing because you have experienced some type of marginalization. While I don't believe and while I don't play into the whole game of like oppression Olympics, what I do like to tell people is, yes, all oppression is connected. We can have that conversation for days. All oppression is connected, however you want to slice it, dice it, and cut it, because it all comes from the same system, white supremacy. We know that, right? But when we start thinking about the ways that these systems take hold and start moving and maneuvering and flipping and basically ducking and dodging, then the stakes become higher for certain people, right? That the problems become more of an issue for other individuals. And so I always like to just check myself. My experience as a Black, queer, non-binary male is going to always look different because there is still some sort of privilege wrapped around my identity. And that's the thing I want people to understand, is that it's not about you saying, well, I understand and I know your story and your journey. No, the fuck you don't, because we all have a different walk. However, what I want you to do is I want you to understand my story. I want you to comprehend my story, and I want you to work with me to make my journey easier. And that's where I stand in a lot of my work. What work am I doing to make someone else's walk easier? That's what I need from people, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's it. As I said earlier, hold each other up.
That's it. That's all we have to do now.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oppression Olympics is a really interesting way to say it because there are so many people right now who are like literally vying to be the most oppressed. And it's like, oh no.
And I always kind of go back to the help. Miss Hillary, ain't you tired? Ain't you tired? Like I don't Miss Hillary, like I look at that and I look at people who are like, well, you don't know what I've been through. And I go, baby, I don't want to know what you've been through because
Yeah.
I already have enough on my plate. My question becomes, what are we going to do to make sure that we both don't have to go through it? That's what I'm interested in. Like I always come back to this notion of like, let's do something together. Let's work together collectively as a community. Why are we piecing out one another to say, oh, well, my oppression's greater than yours? Well, since the same system is coming for you and for me, so why don't we work together to dismantle it so that way we both can eat at the same table? Like, that's how I think about things. But, I think there are a lot of individuals who just like to know that the light is on them. I don't know if that serves people. And I always like to ask people too, like I think I'm talking in circles, but I always like to think about too, that when people do that, I start to question and I step back. Where in their life or where in their journey were they not validated? And so how do they find validation in taking someone else's story to try to like one up them? That's where my mind continues to kind of like be. So I think about that a lot. Just like, when I start hearing it and when I start seeing it, I'm like, you weren't validated somewhere in your life and now you're trying to use whatever to make yourself more. Okay, I get it. So, yeah.
And I think it applies for every single piece of this story. Even when people were talking about looting and rioting, for me, it's like, it's not about people stealing out of a store. For me, it's about the why. It's about, can you for 1 second imagine the feeling that makes you bust out a window and take a pair of sneakers? Because if you can't put yourself in that person's shoes, whether or not you agree with the action, we're not going to be able to move forward here. And it's a conversation that I keep trying to have with people, and people are having a really hard time with it right now, regardless of the color of their skin, quite frankly. Yeah. Oh, you're so smart, Dr. John.
Girl, that's $200,000 at work.
You were, that's funny. And also I just want to say thanks so much for, we're going to get off topic now and talk about cursing. And I just want to thank you for taking a time to talk about it, because I'm sure you are, as I said in the beginning, just really tired of having to talk about it. And it's personal on top of it all. So yeah. Well, for something completely ridiculous, what is your favorite curse word?
My favorite curse word, I don't know if it's more of a curse word than, I don't know. So a couple of years ago, I heard the term douche canoe. And I don't know why I love that. As soon as I read it, I was like, douche canoe. Like, that is my favorite thing. I don't ever say it, but I think it. And I think that's that's one of my favorite, if it could be considered a curse word, that's my favorite.
I don't even know what that means, though. Like, usually what makes a curse delicious is the meaning behind it. I don't know what to do. I mean, I'm not familiar with all the lady parts, but I don't know what a douche canoe even is.
I don't know. I think I saw it on Twitter once. Someone was responding to someone and she called him a douche canoe, and it just, douche canoe. And I loved it. I said, yes, this is going in my bag of things to call someone when I'm really pissed off.
Well, you want to know, one of my favorite things to do is to call like a dude, if you will, like someone who's like mansplaining and just being like gross. You know what I mean? Someone who's being STR number 8, if you know what I mean, like that level. But to call them a term that is normally like a derogatory term for a lady, like a douche. Oh, it's my favorite thing to do in the world, because they don't know what to do with that.
Nope, they never do. My new favorite one to get people all in their feelings is to refer to folks as cis, the SIS. A lot of cis men do not like it, and I love doing it just to get under people's like, what's wrong, sis? Why you mad? Don't call me sis. Well, you're okay. Well, so that's just my favorite thing to do. Is I love to call people sis. That's like my favorite.
My friend Genevieve, who is she's 52 years old. She is
Mm-hmm.
a giant black woman who lives in Northwest DC.
We love her.
We love her. She's not taking any shit from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
She will call them Little Miss. Like, so, and you know, it's some like little like Italian, we were all living in New York at the time. It was some like Italian douchebag FedEx delivery boy. And she'd be like, okay, Little Miss, relax. I'm getting there.
Yes.
So good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bring people down to size. And
Now,
go ahead.
let's ask an important question.
Yes.
If we're having a brunch
Mm-hmm.
and somebody's making chicken and biscuits,
Mm-hmm.
are you reaching for the dark meat or the white meat?
I am a little bit of both. So whenever I go, so I'm gonna let y'all in because I know that some people are gonna probably be like, that's racist. But I don't give a fuck. I love chicken and I'm going to eat it. I won't eat it on Tuesday. However, but I will throw down whenever I go, and I get a lot of shit for this too because I enjoy KFC. You can save your judgments accordingly. Whoever's watching is like, ew, KFC. Yes, KFC's chicken is good, and I eat it. And when I go there, I always get the same thing. I get a 2-piece. I actually get a 3-piece. I get a breast and 2 thighs. So I'm a little bit, if we're gonna jump into like research, I'm a mixed method kind of girl. I definitely enjoy a 2-piece, a 3-piece, I should say, a breast and 2 thighs.
Oh,
with
that's
the
good.
coleslaw. And the coleslaw has to be cold. If
Yeah.
the coleslaw is warm, I'm not eating it.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, if I'm going to KFC, I'm also getting a 2-piece,
Yes.
a breast, and then they usually give you the thigh. Usually,
Yeah.
then I'm at a biscuit. So you get a biscuit, but you know what I want?
Yeah.
Another biscuit.
Another biscuit. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And KFC's biscuits are better than Popeyes. Fight
Yes.
your mom. It's good. Their biscuits are better. However, if you've ever been out, so we're about to jump down a rabbit hole for me because you know I love food. I didn't get this size overnight. I will tell you that if you want to just take a drive and you just need to get away from the LA smog and you said, I just need a biscuit that's going to change my life, take your ass down to Mrs. Knott's and get their biscuits. It'll change your life. I'm not even playing.
Wait, say it again, Mrs. Knott's?
Yes, that Knott's restaurant. When you go to Knott's Berry Farm,
Uh-huh.
chicken restaurant right on the outside. Their chicken is not that good, but the biscuits will change your life. I kid you not.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
telling you. Mm-hmm.
Well, when you move into town here,
Yes.
I'm going to take you to Dinah's Old Fashioned Diner.
That sounds good.
The West Side. They have, among other things, their sign is a giant bucket of chicken that lights up and spins, so you know it's good automatically.
Yes.
But they give you a plate,
Yes.
and they've got a little bit of white and a little bit of dark,
Yes,
and then they say this to you. Did you want the gravy right on it? Yes!
Yes.
It's not an amateur. It's not
Do I want a heart
Olympics.
attack? Why am I here?
Yeah. Oh my God. But I mean a good biscuit though that's not too dry.
It'll change your
Oh my God.
life.
I feel really passionate about fried chicken.
Yes. As we all should be.
Mm-hmm. But also welcome to my diabetes. But
diabetes. Yes, that's oh God.
it's so good. It's so good. Question number 10. What is the last text you sent and who did you send it to?
So let me look. I think the last person was Stephanie. I said okay to Stephanie. Mm-hmm.
Fabulous. I love it. I love it. I love it. Stephanie was probably like, Jim's a hot mess, just roll with it. And you were like, okay.
No, I was asking her about when to log on and all this stuff. So yeah, we're always chatting. We're always texting back and forth.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And then the bonus question is easy.
Yeah.
What is your favorite thing about John?
Okay. So I used to hate answering this question. And now I think as I've gotten older and I've kind of been able to kind of reflect, I think my favorite thing that I love about myself is my ability to find the something and nothing. And I'll go into detail about that a little bit if we have the time. I think for me, the being able to find something out of nothing. So I think people see my brand. I think people see the articles that I've gotten or the spaces I've been in or the things I've been asked to do. And they think that there's somebody working behind me that's kind of pulling the strings to get me there. And a lot of the times that's not the case. A lot of the times is me ultimately saying, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm just going to do it. And I think that that's been like the gist of like my brand as a whole has been making something out of nothing. I grew up, and a lot of people know this about me because I talk about it all the time, but I grew up very poor. And my mom, being a single Black woman who was raising us in San Bernardino, in probably one of the worst areas of San Bernardino, always reminded me that if I wanted something bad enough, I'd figure it out. That's my mom's favorite thing. If you want it bad enough, you'll figure it out. Edwina was always really good for telling me that growing up as a kid. And so that voice has kind of stuck with me even as an adult. If you want something bad enough, you'll figure it out. You don't have money for rent? Well, you want to keep a roof over your head? You'll figure it out. Like that, that has been kind of like the trajectory of my life. And so I'm so thankful for my mom kind of telling me and my brother that growing up, you know, that just because you don't have it doesn't mean you can't have it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think now, like I come home sometimes and I look around my apartment, or I'll come in my office and I'll look around and I'm like, wow, I worked for this. I made this happen. I made all of this happen out of nothing. And so I think that's the one thing I love about myself, my ability to really never give up, the resilience and the idea of being able to make something out of nothing.
You know, it's a full circle conversation because it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about like those angels who say to you, this is a learning moment. And then you having to look inside, dig deep and trust yourself, you know?
Yeah.
It's so true. And I see it across, in my 20s, I hung out with actors, right? And I wanted to be a Broadway performer. And I saw it then. But then I realized as I like went to different parts of the industry, the most successful people are two. They're the people that are still standing, who never gave up, and the people who dug deep and just kept pushing.
Yeah.
Those are the ones.
Yeah. I think for folks who are watching, I think the advice that really changed my life this year, I've known Stephen Canals for a couple of months outside of our first time actually having lunch together. And I had gotten home and I had texted him. I was like, hey, Stephen, thank you for meeting up with me. And thank you so much for all the advice you gave me regarding, you know, the industry and blah, 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 blah. And one day out of the blue, he texted me and he was like, I want you to hold on to the one thing my mentor told me. He was like, the industry is not wanting to say no. The industry wants you to quit. And that for me has been the one thing that has kept me going, is that it's not about the no's, because everybody is going to get a no. Everyone's moving in industries where they're collecting a whole bunch of no's. But I think for me, it was hearing him say, they just want you to quit, that clicked something in my head of like, if I quit, I'm doing exactly what this world and what this industry wants me to do. And so that's the reason why I'm always asking questions, or I'm always working on something, or I'm always trying to get in someone's door, because the moment that I do get to make it, I can look back and go, at least I never quit, you know? So.
Well, truly. And you want to know what? Those no's are working for you.
Yeah.
Which you taught me today, you know? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? You did it! My God, we made it!
We made it to the end.
You know what? You're simply the best.
Thank you.
Dr. John, tell everybody where they can find you online, see more of you, read the works, walk us through it.
Well, right now you could find me in an orthopedic chair. As you know, I fell and hurt my arm.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that. Are you okay? It's broken.
Girl, I'm clumsy. Just clumsy. No, We were on a walk and I toppled over like a big baby in a high chair, and just fell smooth on my arm. But I'm hoping tomorrow with my orthopedic doctor will tell me that I can take this little thing off, and that that I'll be able to just rock a brace and be able to push on with my life. But outside of that, walking, right? Outside of that, you can find me on all the social medias, all the places you stalk your exes. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook by using the handle at Dr. John Paul, which is spelled just like it sounds, DoctorJonPaul.
I love it. I love it. This has been such a pleasure. I am going to demand when we can get together in real life that we have a brunch at Stephanie's. Because I want to spend time with you in real life, and I want to give you a hug and thank you.
Oh, my website. Yeah. Sorry, I have my manager on the end going, and your website. If you podcast, oh my God. Thank you all, family, for plugging me. I am so sorry, Jim, for cutting you off.
No, go for it.
They're just yelling at me. So my website, you can find me is at www.drjohnpaul.com. You can also listen to my podcast, which is Learnt. It's spelled with an N and a T, LEARNT podcast.com. You can find us on all the places, Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on Google, we're on Stitcher. And yeah, I think that's the gist of it all. Actually, I also have a column on Grindr. So if you check out bloop.com, there's also my column there where I'm talking about all the amazing things that LGBTQ people are doing in the community. So that's, at least from my own ideology, that's all I'm doing. So
that's a lot. You're doing enough. You're doing the most. Trust me. It's amazing. And I think we're all better for it. Thanks so much. It was such a pleasure.
You too. Thank you.
Y'all can find me at I am Jim Lanahan everywhere and jimlanahan.com. And mwah to you, John. And brunch soon, please.
Yes. Me, you, possibly Miss Rona, and Stephanie. Because Rona, she gonna show up regardless if she invites us.
Well, yeah, but honestly, she could bake, so she needs to bring like a sweetbread product, I'm
gonna need her to do more than that. I actually really need her to pack her shit up and go. That's what I really need Miss Rona to do. But that's neither here nor there. But it was great. This was fantastic. Thank you for having me.
I'll talk to you soon. All right. Have a good night.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.